China moves mBridge toward a commercial launch as a swift rival. China is preparing to move mBridge, a blockchain-based settlement network linking several central bank digital currencies, from pilot into commercial use, according to a report shared by CoinMarketCap on June 15, 2026. The network has cleared roughly 470 billion yuan in volume to date and is being positioned as a direct alternative to SWIFT, the messaging backbone that routes most cross-border bank payments today. That framing is the headline, a state-backed settlement layer that does not depend on Western financial messaging infrastructure has been a long-stated goal for Beijing and several partner economies, and a commercial phase would mark the point where it stops being an experiment. A settlement rail, not a consumer wallet. mBridge sits at the wholesale layer of the payment stack. It is built for commercial banks and central banks to settle large cross-border transfers in tokenized central bank money, not for individuals tapping a card at a terminal. The distinction matters. This is plumbing, the part of the system that decides how value clears between institutions in different countries rather than the front end that consumers touch. The project grew out of a multi-central bank effort that originally included the Bank for International Settlements as a technical coordinator. The BIS stepped back from the initiative in late 2024, which left China and partner central banks to carry the network forward on their own. A push toward commercial rollout now is the clearest signal yet that those participants intend to keep building it without that backing. The 470 billion yuan figure, about $65 billion at recent exchange rates, is the volume the network has processed during its pilot phase. It is a real number with settled transactions behind it, which separates mBridge from the many CBDC concepts that never leave a sandbox. The SWIFT comparison and its limits: SWIFT does not move money. It carries the standardized messages that tell banks to move money, and almost every cross-border payment in dollars, euros, and most other currencies passes through it. Its reach is also what makes it a choke point. Cutting an institution off from SWIFT, as happened to sanctioned Russian banks, can sever it from large parts of the global financial system. A network like mBridge attacks that dependency from two directions at once. It combines the messaging and the settlement into a single tokenized rail, and it does so outside the institutions that currently administer access. For economies wary of dollar clearing exposure, that is the appeal. The same feature is exactly what draws scrutiny from regulators in the United States and Europe, who read a non-SWIFT corridor between major trade partners as a route around sanctions enforcement. Calling it a SWIFT rival is accurate in intent but generous on scale. SWIFT connects more than 11,000 institutions. mBridge connects a handful of central banks and their commercial banks. A 470 billion yuan pilot is meaningful as proof the architecture works, not as a share of the trillions that move across borders daily. Pressure on the rails crypto users already use. The direct overlap with crypto cards is thin because mBridge is interbank infrastructure rather than anything a cardholder interacts with. The second-order effect is where it touches this audience. Cross-border value transfer is the problem stablecoins have been quietly solving for retail and small business users, with dollar-pegged tokens moving over public blockchains at a fraction of correspondent banking cost. A government-run multi-CBDC corridor is the state's answer to the same problem, aimed at the institutional tier. Where the two collide in trade settlement and treasury movement between China and its partners, expect competition over which rail captures the flow. Tokenized commercial deposits and stablecoin networks both have a stake in the outcome. For anyone weighing FX exposure or how funds route internationally, the longer-term read is that the era of one dominant settlement network is being challenged from several sides at once, by state CBDC bridges and by private stablecoin rails, often with overlapping ambitions. That is a structural shift in how money crosses borders, even if a single 470 billion yuan pilot does not move the needle on its own.